things that you need to do to get an admission or to apply to a dental hygiene school. We've already talked about how you have to choose the school that you want, how it's best to reach out to them. Once you already have the information that you need in terms of like what you need to submit, then submit. And the next thing they do is call you to interview you, and God so good, if that goes well, you get into the school. Now I think one thing I need to make clear is there's a tendency that because you're a dentist, it's gonna be easy peasy. No. I mean, most of it would be easy peasy, but after like speaking with people, speaking with friends, doing my research, I know one of the things, and I want to make this clear that yes, you would probably fly through most of it, but one of the challenges that most of the foreign trained dentists had or they encountered while they were in dental hygiene school was the clinical aspect. Because again, it's you have to understand that you're being trained by people who eat, sleep, and everything you do is hygiene related. So they are professionals, they know what they're talking about, versus you who was a dentist and you've been trained on so many things and hygiene was part of it, right? So you're not dealing with specialists in this field. So you just have to like humble yourself, learn from them, let them take you through the whole rigorous process of teaching you how to hold your instruments. And I know what I'm talking about. This is the same thing that happened to me like my last quarter, 2 quarters ago. We went through hygiene. You have to hold your instruments a certain way, you have to position yourself a certain way, your leg has to be positioned a certain way, your patient has to be there's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, all those things. So just be aware that these are some of the challenges that other dentists went through, that foreign trained dentists like yourself went through while they were in hygiene school. You're not the only one who is going through that, and it's okay. Others have gone through that challenge and they have succeeded, right? So just be open to train, be open to the knowledge that they give you, understand that they're trying to make you better, humble yourself. You don't want to give up this vibe of, oh, I'm a dentist, I know more than you, so you don't know what you're talking about. You don't want to give up that vibe, because everybody's a human being, right? And nobody wants to teach that type of a student, right? So you don't want to pay all this money to go to dental hygiene school and not receive the knowledge and the training that you have paid for, right? So those are one of the challenges that most foreign trained dentists that went to hygiene had, being able to acquire those or going through that rigorous training, that rigorous clinical training of how a hygienist is supposed to hold their instruments, how they're supposed to position themselves and all that. So just be aware that that's one thing that could happen. The second thing that a lot of foreign trained dentists who went to hygiene also saw as a challenge was learning to play it down. So what do I mean by that? So you see a patient, right? And you see a cavity. Your brain is telling you, oh, or maybe let's not even use that analogy. Maybe you see a tooth that has changed color, for example, right? Maybe you've been seeing, because the thing is, you also go through the clinical aspect of the training, right? So you're seeing patients. Maybe you see a patient that you've seen like 2 months before, everything was fine, and they come back and their tooth has changed color. Your brain is giving you a diagnosis like, okay, maybe this pulp is dead or whatever, and there's a tendency that you want to tell the patient that, but you are not a dentist in this position, you are a hygienist. So the most you can say is, oh, maybe a dentist needs to take a look at this tooth. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you are diagnosing. That is a challenge for most people, because you're coming from a world where you're the dentist, you're the player, you're the main player, you're the superstar, you're the one that is telling them, this, right? And now you're in a position where you have to just play it down. We know that you know it, but legally in Canada, you are not allowed to diagnose. You can just say, like, if you see like if you see like a cavity, you can probably just say, oh, like there's something going on with this tooth or whatever. You can probably just even say like, oh, there's a cavity. But clinical, you can write it down your clinical note that, oh, this patient has so and that, right? That is the job of the dentist. So those are some of the challenges that they're going through. And I know there's some schools also where you have to bring your own patients. Like when you get to the clinical aspect of the hygiene school, you have to bring your own patients in. That can be rigorous, especially if you're like an immigrant where you don't have so much of a community, you don't have so many people around you. That can be challenging, right? So you just have to, so that's why I'm saying, like, when you go to, when you're trying to choose a school, do your research, ask all the questions, you know, just so that you're aware. Not that you now get into the school, you've paid, you're almost done, then you now get to the stage and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that this is how this school operates. There's some schools that they give you the patients, right? And so you don't have to bring your own patients for the clinical aspect. And there's some schools where you actually have to bring, and there's some schools that will tell you that they will provide the patients, and the patients they provide to you are not compliant. They're not patients that are coming for the appointment. So those are the things that you have to be aware of that happen while you're in hygiene school. Okay, so now you've applied to hygiene school, they've interviewed you, you've gone through the whole rigorous process. Like I said, in Ontario, most schools have the program for 18 months. In some other schools outside Ontario, it's usually for 2-3 years. So just be aware of that, okay? So you've gone through all that. So let's talk about what happens after hygiene school. So like I said, hygiene is a very lucrative industry. It really is. It's to the point where you have a situation where some hygienists can set up their own dental clinics now. I personally have not seen anyone do that, but I know that it's something that has started to occur, like where hygienists can set up their own dental clinics. They probably have to hire like dentists, or maybe just make it like a, I know I saw online of a hygienist who has set up hers like more like a spa kind of thing. Like you come in for your cleaning, you know, you have all this other services, and you just go out. I mean, I think that's amazing, right? That's cool, right? But anyways, let's talk about what happens after hygiene school. So usually after you write your exams, like your final exams in the school, then you also have to do like a board exam. I mean, that cuts across the whole of dentistry, I feel. Like you do your final exams, and you have to write the board exams for candor, and then you also have to write like a provincial it's not like a provision exam, it's more like a provisional registration rather, so you can get like your practice permit or your practice license and all that. And then and then that's just basically it. I know that they also have their hygiene association, where you also have to like pay like an annual fee. I can't imagine that it's much, you know, once you start practicing. I know there are advantages to being in an association. There are advantages to being in an association, honestly. Like I've never been a hygienist, but I know that the associations are put there to like regulate the activities of hygienists and to regulate how the hygienists are being treated in Canada, you know. And I know that for a fact because when I was an assistant in Canada, I would hear like chatter amongst the dental assistants talking about, you know, what their association what the association would do for them, how, you know, there was a limit or a minimum to what they could be paid. So I'm trying to imagine that that's probably the same thing that happens with hygiene, where they're trying to regulate everything and protect their members. So if you find yourself in that kind of position, I would advise you to go for it. But if you don't want to like cough out a monthly an annual fee, that's fine, that's up to you. But I know that those are the kind of things that happen. But again, hygiene is such a lucrative business. Like my brother and sister, I know how much they were being paid. Like the ones I used to work with, I had an idea of what they were being paid. So I know that it's a lucrative business. Some of them get paid as high as $35 per hour. Some of them get paid, and again, of course, it depends on like your experience. Obviously, like the more clinical experience you acquire, the more of an earning power that you have, the more of an asking power that you have. But I know that they get paid like really, really well. So it's really a lucrative industry. you wouldn't be in a situation where you're done and you won't find a job. Like hygiene, and the thing is, again, this is another thing. So most patients are, you find a larger proportion of people who are committed to getting their teeth, their gum clean versus doing a filling or taking out a tooth, right? I used to find that very, very like crazy, because I'm like, maybe not, let's not use the word crazy. I used to find that very, very like, I just never understood it. How when I used to work as a dental assistant, patients, like, you would see the whole hygiene schedule full. People will come for their hygiene appointments. People will literally have 2 appointments. They will have one for hygiene, they will have one with the dentist, cancel the one for the dentist, and come for the hygiene appointment and be like, oh, I didn't know that I had an appointment with the dentist. I'm like, duh, you knew, but whatever. Anyways, so people are, I know one thing I know about Canadians is they're committed to keeping their gums healthy. And it makes sense, because most people that you find in Canada coming for dental appointments are most people that are really into this industry where it's all about your looks, how you smell, how you present yourself, and that's why I feel like dentistry is such a booming industry in Canada, because it feeds into this whole culture of present yourself the way you want to be addressed, right? So think about it. Mouth odor, hygiene, it's kind of like connected. When you keep your mouth clean, you keep your mouth healthy, you won't have things like having like mouth odor, gums bleeding, and all that. So people are, I feel, now this is not a fact, this is not something I got anywhere, but from my own experience and what I've seen, people are more committed to their hygiene appointments because they don't want to have a smelly mouth, they don't want to have bleeding gums. They are very committed to that versus coming in to have a tooth filled. Of course, pain is always like a motivating factor for why people rather come in for their dentist, for why people come for their dentist appointment. Pain is a motivating factor for why people come in for their dentist appointments, because people have had pain in the past. They don't want to go through that whole process again, so they rather come in for regular dental appointments. But you have a larger proportion of people who are committed to hygiene. Like, my mouth must not smell. Oh, like if I smell, it'll be embarrassing for them to see, like, this stain or this calculus and all that. Do you understand? So people are committed to hygiene. So hygiene is a lucrative industry. If you call now and try to book a hygiene appointment, they will give you 3 months dates, 2 months dates, because most of those appointments are fully booked. Do you get what I mean? So hygiene is such a lucrative business, and honestly, if you want to stay in it, if you're like, okay, you know what, I don't want to do dentistry, I don't want to try and get licensed, I want to go into hygiene, it's a lucrative business. Honestly, it is. It's something you can actually survive on, right? And then if you say, okay, you know what, I still want to go into dentistry, but I need the money that this is going to bring my way, that's fine. Because the truth of the matter is, what people don't know is, and I've talked about this a lot on my page, I've talked about this a lot on my Instagram page, a lot of people don't understand how the monetary demands of trying to get licensed here in Canada, and I wouldn't advise you that, coming in fresh, an immigrant, just start accumulating all these loans and taking loans from banks, from this person. I wouldn't advise you to do that. If there's a way that you can get the money to fund the whole dental process of becoming a dentist in Canada, then go for it. And so that's why I'm talking about this today. Like, you can actually go into hygiene. Fine, you probably have to get a loan to go into school, but by the time you start working as a hygienist, you can pay it back while you're also doing your dentistry. It's not as much as most of the dental hygiene programs are like 40,000, and then you get an OSAP loan from the government. They give you a grant, so at the end of the day, what you're paying back is probably like 20 or 18 grand, and then coupled with a hygiene salary or a hygiene pay, you can probably pay that back in maybe like a year or 2 years, depending on what else you're using money for. Do you understand? So I feel like this is a way to go if you want to go, honestly. Another thing I wanted to add was, now this is not me being, I'm loyal to my province. Okay, my province is Ontario. I'm loyal to this province, okay, but the facts are the facts. Everything is better outside Ontario. That's the truth. The style of living is better. people would argue that there are more jobs in Ontario. Maybe, I don't know. But I know that because I have friends, cousins who are outside the province, and they're like, what are you guys doing here? I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, my point is that the pay is better outside Ontario as well. You know, the pay is better, and the standard of living is actually better also outside Ontario as well. So I know what some people do is, because it's this is an advice, I'm not saying you have to do it, okay? It depends on what you want to do, right? I know what some people do is they come in Ontario, they go to school in Ontario because like shorter, it's like 18 months, right? And then once they're done, they leave and start working outside Ontario. You can do that. That's something you want to do. But I just wanted to make people aware of the fact that, you know, there's a possibility of you getting a higher pay outside Ontario. So now let's talk about career options. Now, I was surprised when I knew this, because I just thought, when you become a hygienist, that's it. You just become a hygienist. But, you know, the industry is so booming that they have different ways that you can go. You can actually become like a teacher, or don't let me use the word teacher, like a clinical instructor. Let's talk about that. You know what, teaching is the right word. So you can actually become a teacher. So I mean, and you know, it's very, I think the time when I knew this was when I was actually still working at my last position as a dental assistant. I had this friend who was a hygienist, and she was just complaining about going through so much stress in her life. And I just had a conversation with her, right? And then she was telling me that, oh, she was doing a master's. And in my own ignorance, I was like, what are you doing a master's for? Like, I don't get it. What's going on? And then she's like, oh, she's trying to become like a teacher and all that. So ladies and gentlemen, once you become a hygienist, you can actually also become like a teacher. Of course, limited to just hygiene, right? And of course, you have to do like additional qualifications, like you do a master's, you do different other qualifications. Again, do your research if this is something that you're interested in. But if you're like, okay, you know what, I don't think I can do this hygiene for long. Or if you're like, okay, you know what, I don't want to become a dentist anymore, I want to do hygiene, but I don't really, if you're like me, I don't really want to be cleaning teeth all my life, you know, you can actually become a teacher. You're not limited in your choices. Like once you do your hygiene, you do your additional qualifications, you do your masters, whatever, and you can actually become a teacher. You can actually become a professor in the field. And the thing is, you know, having all those additional qualifications, you tend to also climb in life. You can also take on more administrative roles in like maybe like a dental clinic or something of that sort. You know, the sky is really open for you once you start acclimating all those additional qualifications. You can become a teacher, you can become a professor in the field as well. And the reason why this was very surprising for me is because I was used to my background, my country. I was just used to hygienists just being hygienists, full stop. You know, I didn't know they could become teachers. I didn't know they could become professors in that field. You know, I dare even say that maybe their teachers were dentists or people who were in the teaching industry, but they were dentists. I dare say that. You know, I've never really been aware of the fact that a hygienist becomes their own teacher and all that. I mean, it's kind of like ridiculous for me to be saying it now because that makes sense, but I don't think I ever saw that, you know, during my training as a dentist in dental school. So I'm here to tell you that if that's something you want to do, if you want to go into hygiene as a teaching faculty is teacher, as a professor, that's something you can do. You probably just have to do some additional qualifications. So let's just do a recap. So if you want to become a teacher in the dental hygiene field, after you do your dental hygiene, you can do additional qualifications, e.g. like a master's, and become a teacher. Or you can just decide to go into clinical practice. That's it. Clinical practice, that's all you're doing. That's where it stops, ends, full stop. Or you can even decide to go into public health as well. Yeah, you can decide to go into public health as well. You can go public health, a master's of dental public health, whatever it is you want to do. So you're not limited in your choices, is my point. So let's do a recap. So you can go into a teaching position where you do like in addition to your hygiene qualification, you do like an additional qualification like a master's. You can go into teaching, become a teaching faculty. You can just go into clinic life, where you just become a hygienist. You go to work, go to a clinic, clean your teeth, see your patients, go out, you can do that. Or you can also become something they call like an independent hygienist. So they're the ones that can actually set up their own clinic. They can set up their own clinic. But what I do know about that is that you need some years of mentorship, where you've been mentored by another hygienist, and then you can now go ahead to set up your own clinic. And when I heard about that, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like, this industry, the hygiene industry is like, it's booming. Like, it's changing quickly, and I like the way they're trying to make things better for the members of the association. I like the way they're giving hygienists more opportunities to do more things. I like that. I honestly do. So that's something you can do. You can become an independent hygienist, where you actually set up your own dental clinic, and but you do need years of mentorship before you can set that up, right? And then also you can become a restorative hygienist. So those are hygienists that, in addition to regular hygiene stuff, you can also do temporary fillings. So like temp fillings, if you're in the dental industry, you know what a temporary filling is. You can also have like a mobile dental hygiene setup. That's something that I think it's probably a lot of people know about already, because even back home in my home country, we had dentists have mobile dental hygiene setups, and they'll go to people's homes and do their cleaning for them. So that's also something you can do here as well. So the choices are like unlimited. Like, if this is what you want to do, this is the industry you want to stay in, there are many things you can do. Just touch briefly on the issue of finance for hygiene. So like I said, depending on what school you go to, you're looking at something range around maybe like 40 grand, 60 grand. It depends on province you go to and all that. And of course, like, if you feel like there's no way around it, you can always apply for an OSAP loan from the government. As long as you're Canadian PR or you're a citizen, you can do that. Again, if you don't want to have a loan on you, like if you don't want to apply for a loan, you can always decide to like work your way through school. Again, this is like a full-time program, so you have to understand that whatever job you're getting is a part-time job, and that in itself, that whole situation presents its own unique challenges. Like, that cannot be easy. I remember when I was talking to one of my friends, she was like, she knew people who actually worked while in school, but by the time it got to like the clinical aspect of the program, it became more challenging, so they obviously had to stop. So I mean, you can always have a plan, like maybe like the first few months of the program you can work and all that, and then just plan to stop like when you start getting into like the clinical aspect of the program. Whatever works for you, honestly. But my point for today, and I hope I'm able to, and I hope this was informative for whoever is watching this, that dental hygiene is an aspect that you can go into if you're looking for something that you can do before you become a licensed dentist in Canada. You can go into dental hygiene. It is very, very possible to get into it. The admission requirements are not crazy. It's not something that's impossible for you to achieve. It's something you can actually go into, and if this is an industry that you want to stay in, you can do that as well. Okay, so that'll be all for today. Don't forget to follow me on my page, Niger Dentist in Canada, my page on Instagram, and don't forget to also subscribe to this channel, just so that you know when I put up more videos as well. Okay, all right, have a nice day. God bless, stay blessed. Mwah.